So we go now to Module 3, and this particular set of slides will be updated and will be shared to you as we go along. The topics that were included for this set of slides was just the topics that will be covered just for the day. Maybe it will not even be fully covered for the day, but we'll try to cover everything within the day. That way, the other topics that are discussed in Module 3 can be covered in just as much as possible at most 3 meetings. But it would be good if it could be all covered in just 2 meetings. Okay, Module 3 is about business models already. This teaches you how to come up with ideas and how to present your ideas in such a manner that will be easy to follow and the flow of information could be easily followed through. Okay, so what is this business model canvas? Now, business model canvas was generally used by startup companies or organizations that serve as a guiding tool for them to think of a better solution on how to generate new innovating ideas and apply the strategies in marketing their products or services. So it's a canvas where everything that pertains in the business could be seen at just one glance. So everything is there already, from the things that are needed in the initial part of the initial, let's say, stage of the business up to the end, and for it to be, shall I say, a continuing process already. So in just one page, everything is there already. Now, this particular business model canvas, short is BMC, you can easily Google BMC, is proposed by Alexander Osterwalder. Now, this is based on his book, The Business Model Ontology. Now, in here, Mr. Osterwalder outlines the 9 segments associated with the BMC, or the Business Model Canvas, which forms the building blocks for your business, whatever that business may be. And this is a tool, a very fundamental tool that is being used by those that are yet to start the business, or yet for those who have already businesses, for those who want to innovate or diversify, they also use this BMC or business model canvas. There are several templates available online. Google has a lot of templates regarding BMC. And I've just placed in here some of the samples, which are, in my case, based on my assessment, are easy to follow. Now, I find this one simple, but everything is already there. But others may like the template in which there are arrows that tells you what should be the first step, or what should be the first thing that should be considered in planning a business, and then what should be the steps that should follow afterwards. In here, it does not really tells you what step number 1, or what's the priority, or what's the key element, number 1 element to consider in putting up a business. In here, you have 9 key components also, just like the others here that I'm going to present to you in a little while. So you have the partners. So who are your partners in your business? The persons, the establishments, the companies. So you could see here, the suppliers are even considered as your partners. In the case who are dependent on manufacturers for them to complete their assembly lines. So they also have these key partners, the manufacturers. And of course, the very important, the advertisers. So they are actually the one that package the products. That way it will come something as a come-on to the general public, or for the target customers for that matter. So without the advertisers, without the marketers, our product will remain in the shelves, or they will remain in our heads, because they are the ones actually that pushes, or shall I say sells. I like to use the word sell. They are the ones selling the product to the target customer, or to a particular segment of the society. So partners. So when we speak of partners, need that be personas or persons. They can even be companies. So can you give me an idea of companies that partners with other companies? That way they will even come up stronger. companies that partners with other companies? Do you have any idea of this? They have partner companies. Can you give me an example of companies that have partner companies?
Smart PLDT, miss.
Okay, Smart PLDT. So local companies, that is, we have Smart PLDT. What else? Mo lang to, Smart PLDT. About the others, what companies do you think merge that way? They'll be even coming up stronger. Whatever they offer in the market would even come on, would be a big come on if compared to they just stand alone. Okay, you may not know this, so I'm Googling it now. So probably your idea on partner companies is not that uh, shall I say, clear or dako in your idea for that. So, for the information of everybody, Starbucks and Spotify, they are partners. Imagine Starbucks partnering with Spotify, Airbnb and Flipboard. So they are partner companies. BMW and Louis Vuitton. So I think you know already the target market of these companies, BMW and Louis Vuitton. Okay, Adidas and Kanye West. So they are partners. So Kanye West has his own company. It partnered with Adidas. So I think the list will just go on, like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan partnering with is it Nike or Air Jordan? He has his own company, Air Jordan, in which even his mansion, he is selling this mansion. If I'm not mistaken, this mansion is originally priced at 90 million, or is it 70 million dollars? The problem with his mansion not being sold or has been up in the market for years already, it's because his mansion is really so personalized. Like the hallways have basketballs, that the swimming pool is shaped as a basketball, and Michael Jordan has a difficulty selling his mansion. The reason why he wants to sell it, because in the United States, the real estate tax will really kill you if you have a property that is not being used. If you're not using it, it's much better for you to convert it into liquid cash. That way, you won't have any problem with real estate tax. So, Michael Jordan, though he has a problem with selling it, he's not having a problem with targeting a customer. His problem is selling the mansion because it's so personalized. But there's still a lot of people who seeing him in his mansion, in the mansion that he put up in the market, because they want to know more about his company, the the Air Jordan thing, that company that he owns. So the primary reason why customers go to his mansion is not really the mansion, but seeing Michael Jordan himself and hearing about his company, which is shall we say, the Air Jordan, that shoes that is so very expensive. Okay, so that's it. Now we will continue. So in terms of activities, so the other key element in the business model canvas is activities. What are the activities that will create value or make sure that the value that you propose to hand on to your target customers will be delivered? These are the key actions. So as defined in here, it's the key actions that will create value or will continue to preserve the value that you are proposing to your target customers. That's the second element in your business model canvas. But the third one is very important as well, is your resources, the things that you need in your business. So not only with the materials, but you are to think of technologies associated with uh, your particular product, the needed technologies associated with your particular product. The example, if you are into cars. So let's say Ford. So Ford needs technology. Toyota, Nissan, whatever other car companies. So they don't only need manufacturers, but they don't only need materials, but they also need that technology behind. That way they can, of course, finish the entire car or the entire model of the car. Now, very important, I've mentioned a while ago about manufacturers. Now, to the knowledge of everybody, if you are into car manufacturing, for example, Ford, it's a company primarily based in the United States. Actually, they have manufacturers. They don't manufacture everything that the cars that we're using here, that is being sold in here in the Philippines, the Ford model cars in the Philippines are not all manufactured by Ford. So the parts are manufactured in several parts of in several countries in the globe. So they have several manufacturers for those. They even have their own, shall I say, separate assembly for the electronic parts of the Ford cars, and they have a separate assembly line for assembling company for a particular part. So what is coming into the, let's say for example in the States already put up all together, are actually coming from different suppliers and different manufacturers. Now, why I know that? Because car manufacturers, even up to the smallest bolts, have their specific manufacturers. So come to think of it, that is why it's actually number one in here, the manufacturers in the partners. It's because if a particular design of a bolt that should be used in the assembly, or let's say for example of an automobile, will not come up to the required specification, everything in the assembly will be much affected. I have a schoolmate in college who is now working as one of the, let's say, production manager in a company in the States that manufacture only the bolts in the Ford cars. So he can even tell me, or he can recall that a particular, let's say, batch of bolts were all, shall I say, discarded, will not all accepted by Ford because when come to the assembly line, it will be used anymore. It will not fit in. And that particular problem is actually with the partner. So number one is when you choose for a particular business as intricate as manufacturing a car, the key partners know that the dimension, the intricate design of a particular part in the product that you are going to assemble. So that's how very, very important it is, the manufacturer. So if there's a problem with one manufacturer, in that particular manufacturer is supplying a particular part in the assembly line, the entire assembly will be greatly affected. So that's how important it is, the key partner. That is why it's actually number one here in PMC. So going back to the resources, excuse me, class. So in terms of the resources, we have to consider the materials, the technologies, the talents, and money. The talents. So who can give me an example of how important is as talent as one of the resources? Can you give me a company that will cross your mind that is very dependent on the talent that it has in delivering the product or the services that it delivers to its customer? Can you give me an example? Speaking of talent. Wala, talent. Can you give me a company that is very dependent on the talent of its
mga music band, mga banda.
mga banda? Or what recording companies you mean? You mean that? So
Yes, miss.
For example, Sony. Sino ang mga talents under kay Sony? We have Mariah Carey. Sony na siya nga talent. I'm not really that knowledgeable about who are the talents under the companies, but they themselves sell the company. So the talents behind. So your classmate said about the music companies and sa mga banda. So it's very important you know Sony is a big company, so naturally the talents that it also markets will also be big names. So I have mentioned already Mariah because I know her to be married to the owner of Sony, which is Tony Motola. But now she's not, of course, married to that person because she's already, I think, married the second time around with a much younger guy now. But that's it. That's how important talent is. Another example of talent. So related to music, what about talent? In a particular company that is very important. What about Google? Do you know that for you to be accepted as an employee of Google, you must be mentally endowed? So that's talent. Telling kayo more on sa the way you think. So not everybody can land in Google. Now, my husband would tell me that if you're working in Google, not just aside from the very healthy package, salary package that you will be receiving from Google, in Google, every day is shall I say, a party day for if you're employed there because the coffee is overflowing, food is on the company. You eat anything that you want to eat, it's there, it's free for everybody. You just don't bring it at home. You just think for Google. You just think of you're just being paid to think, and that's how lucrative it is to be employed by Google. Okay, somebody wrote in the chat box. Publishing companies, media companies means like news reporting, dapat namin yung speaking skills. Correct, I agree with that. Now, I'm not pro ABS-CBN, pero ako lang ni siya observation class. Have you noticed about the newscaster of ABS-CBN compared to GMA? They're so they so handpicked. They 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 so handpicked aside from the fact that they are really good in speaking because it should be inherent if you're going to be a reporter, if you're going to be a media personality that you can speak well. You have this charm with people. You can charm people. But aside from that, why I'm saying that they are so handpicked, it's because they're not just plain newscasters or mass communication graduates. They are either economics graduates. They are most of the shall I say what you call this anchormen of ABS-CBN. They are law graduates. If they're not graduates, they are into law. Kung alang-alang kasi ABS-CBN, hindi pagbatunon. I have noticed that even with CNN, which is connected with ABS-CBN. CNN Philippines, that is, Philippines. So I have noticed that, whereas if I compare it with other channels, modesty aside, they are also good, but they are not as good if I'm just going to compare them with those in ABS-CBN. They're really very aside from the fact that they're really very pleasing, nami sila tulokon comments ang father kung nami kuno mamati niyo sa ABCBN kaya hindi natulog kaya nami nangadaan ang itsura nami kuno pamatian compared to the other channels. Although we have our biases, but that's it. Speaking of talent, so they speak well, they have this charm, they look well, and of course, in terms of mga graduates nila, grabe na ilaya nga curriculum vitae kung tanawon ta. Somebody wrote in the chat box, Canva company news or food industry. Okay, I'm not really my knowledge of Canva is not that dako ako na balance sa Canva. All I know is I can go to Canva. If I want to design something on a web page that I'm working, I go to Canva and then I can mix designs there and that's it. But according to Aliyah here, just going to share it, Canva company and food industry. So they are dependent on their talents. I'd like to use the second example that you mentioned, the food companies. The talents, maybe you're referring to you're referring to ng mga, what you call this? I forgot the word. Nambalang, I forgot it. Can you give me the word? Ina palang mga fine dining gid. So they have their master chef, they have their chefs. So ang ilan na mga customers are really, that's the, ano shall I say, bracket A of the society. And they don't want to eat like fast food, mga fast food lang yan na food, but their food is those that are, pagtulong mo pa lang, you don't feel like eating it because you will destroy how it looks like, even the way it's plated, it's different. In fine dining that is. So maybe that's what Aliyah is sharing here regarding the food industry. Probably in the fine dining uh, area of the food industry. So you need their talent. Now, what about in the case of ano ni siya gani ang company, Ford model, Ford. Have you heard about these Ford models? They are the ones na muna silang garampa permi. They are called Ford models. And they were handpicked as well so that when they wear a particular clothes or a particular handbag or a particular handbag with shoes, it will just simply be extraordinary. But when you come to think of it, what if I'm the one who's using it? Will it will look like the way they use it? Of course, it will not. Because in my case, I'm speaking for myself. But when I look at them, they really look good. So the Ford modeling industry is one. And their models are really handpicked. And in this list, will just go on. So talents are also resources of the business, whatever that business may be. Important key item in the business model canvas. And of course, in the resources, we have the money. Where will the capital come from? So we need to think of, do I have the initial capital that I need? What are my what are my resources for this? Diin mahalin. Okay? So will it be loan from the bank or it will be coming from my fluid cash? Okay? Now, next to these activities and resources, if it's written in form of an arrow, are the values, or we call this the value proposition. What is it that you are really offering of value that is so different than the existing in the market? Okay? So this refers to goods and or services the company produces to satisfy customer needs. Now we'll go later to value proposition. Now we go to relationships. Relationships, so strategic policies of how the company acquires, nurtures, and retains the lead. So what are your policies in the company that ensures that once you capture a particular market, it stays. You retain that particular captured market. What it is that you continually do that will ensure that the target market stays with you. Of course, it's something that is perpetual. So when I say perpetual class, doesn't mean nga kung may na-set up ka na nga amuni nga guidelines, nga strategies for you to be able to keep your customers, amo na lang na siya. No, it will keep evolving. It's a dynamic thing. It's something that is ever changing with the very important goal that you will always, so it's associated with the first one in here, that is why it's on the next column. It's associated with the value that you are proposing to your target market. So how do you ensure that this particular value keeps on evolving? Because you know that your customers' needs are also evolving. Wala na siya nagapabilin nga kung subong ang gusto niya sa iya cellphone, isa lang camera, buwas amo mangyapon. Probably tomorrow, your customer would want a phone that has 3 cameras, or would want a phone that would be able to take pictures on panoramic setting, just like the iPhone, or things like that. So you have to make sure that the value that you are offering is also evolving. With that, ensuring that the value is evolving because the needs of your customers here are evolving, you have these policies, strategic policies that are crafted that way these values are kept. So important, that is why it's centered here in the column. It's at the center of the 9 elements, the values that you are proposing to your target customer. Okay, so under relationships, after values is the channels. How do you make sure that what you are proposing gets to the target customer? So these are your channels. So routes, these are the routes or processes of how the value is being passed to target audiences. How do you intend uh, to market? This has something to do with marketing already. How do you intend to market your product? How do you intend to reach your target customers? So that has something to do with channels. That is why after relationships here and channels, you have the arrow pointing to the customers. Though your first part are your partners in ensuring that you get the value proposition to your customers. In the process of attaining that, you need this, the activities, the resources, that you need to ensure that your customer relationship is kept, if not uh, kept as to its current state, or shall I say status quo, but you even go beyond what is expected. So that has something also to gratifying your customer needs or satisfying your customer needs. And of course, we have here the customers. So the clients the company operates for. The reason why your company is existing, it's because of them, the customers. That is why you have here the darts. So they are your target actually. You have this idea because of this target market, your customers. Now below this 1, 2, 3, 7 key elements, you have the cost that you need to take into consideration. And of course, opposite the cost would be the revenues. So when we speak of the cost, there are fixed and variable costs that are required to produce the value. The value, the value that you are proposing will, of course, uh, have cost. And you have to consider that, the fixed and the variable cost. As to revenue, so if you come to think of it, at the end of everything, you have to earn. Otherwise, your company will be dissolved, or your idea will not be realized. So you have to earn. It has to, you earn not only for yourself. You have to earn because of the existing of your partners. You have to earn because you have partner companies. You have suppliers, you have manufacturers, and you have advertisers rather. That will also be earning if you do. Okay, so you need to satisfy them. If you're not earning, later on, your suppliers, your manufacturer will also bid goodbye to you because you can also pay them well. Okay, so these revenues are your cash flow and profit generation processes. Your business will not exist without you earning. Even if you have the customer, but if you are just, shall I say, existing status quo, shall I say, in probably in the business where you just break even, then why stay in the first place? Because you're not earning. Okay, so that's it. You have to have revenue. This is one form of a business model canvas that you can search online. And there are other forms, so you can have this also. I've seen this one. And the way they do it, they write all their partners here. So when you make your business model canvas later on, you write all your possible partners here, who you think you'll be needing, who do you think are the, let's say, the talents that you will be requiring also. Not only talents, actually the talents are under resources here, but you have to identify all those partners that you have, the activities that you need to do. When we had our seminar on this particular business model canvas, we had one very big Manila paper for this one. We divided into this area, and we used sticky notes to write all the things that we need to consider in all the key elements in here. So we have to think of the partners, we place it there. As to the activities that we need to do, that way we deliver what we need to deliver in here, in the values. So we all identify those, we place it in here. The resources that we need, so we have identified that a while ago. Then how do we ensure that whatever relationships that we have established, so it's not only customer relationship, I go back again to my partners here, I keep them. What do the strategic things that I need to do so that I keep my relationships, if not improve? Then how do I get my value proposition reach my customers here at the end? So I place it all these things there. So actually, this is not done by just one person. There's a group of persons who's thinking about it. Of course, the central thing is what is it? What is the value that you are going to deliver? Is that value in terms of a particular tangible thing, or is it service, or is it service without any tangible thing? Like for example, can you give me an example of a value proposition that does not have any capital? You don't need partners, for example. You just deliver it. You don't need capital, you don't need money, you don't need people. You stand alone. Let me say, somebody wrote here, massage jobber. Sige, massage jobber. Okay, so you intend to deliver this service on home service lang, wala ka sang kinahanglan nga massage parlor or dedicated a massage clinic. You don't need that one. So I have another thing in my mind. It's common today, class, actually, especially in the time of the pandemic. I just thought of it. When you want to offer something na wala ka gid kapital, sabi may kapital man gali gihapon, no, be? Somebody wrote in the tutorial. Correct. That's what I mean, jobber. So your capital is just what you have in your head. You don't need money. You don't need also to add. If you want to advertise, you can advertise on your own through word of mouth from your current customer to would-be customers. So that's something that does not really require big resources or shall I say a lot of partners. Okay. YouTube, you don't pay YouTube, right? Or you create a channel in YouTube. I have seen that already. I've come across a lot. And then you put tutorials there. Later on, you'll just be surprised somebody is contacting you already. How much would it cost you if I will have you answer my assignment in this and that? Okay, I'm just being true because my husband would have a lot of contacts in YouTube alone, especially programming. They will contact people that are posting in YouTube, and then they will let these people do their programming jobs for them. Mostly students, and mostly working students. Students, it's really understandable, class, because they are students who are, shall I say, nabalang self-supporting. They support themselves, so they have to work. And having this pandemic and everything in the online setting, it's not really a big challenge because uh, pwede man lang online, pwede man lang samtang ato ko to sa kusina, kung obra ko sa karinderya, dala ko nga akong cellphone, and then I have my earphones and I can listen to my teacher without being physically present. And I have come across a lot of that students who are really working. And at times, you can't blame them if they can't really focus on the requirements that they need to submit. So they'd rather pay somebody do it for them because they're also working. So this particular scenario of online learning is actually, in my case, if I'm going to look at it, it's an advantage for some. It may be a disadvantage for some, but it's really an advantage for some. Why? You don't spend a lot. If you go to school, you spend a lot. Although you get to, for some, they would rather go to school and spend a lot because they think they would learn better face to face. But come to think of it, in terms of parents who are spending for your children and going to school, I have talked to not a lot, but some parents who came to realize that this pandemic even made them save because their children are just at home. They don't give them plete, they don't give them allowance, they don't have this other mga alamutan sa school because they're just focused on what is there. As long as they have the internet connection, then they're good to go already. When you go to school, there are a lot of expense, and parents are thankful that their children are not going to school. Although the risk, if let's face it, I'm not praying for it, but there's a great possibility that COVID will already be endemic. When I say endemic, it's there already in the system, ever changing. Since it's a virus, it will take from one Delta form to Omicron to Delta Omicron, whatever that form may be. So we just have to be careful, and we just have to ensure that we are physically well, because stress is the #1 cause of sickness. If you are so stressed, you easily get sick. If you're not that stressed, if you manage your stressors, you will not get sick. So your #1 resource, again, our #1 resource, if I may say, is our health. So miski ano pa nahambal nila that you have to be this and be that, earn this and earn that, if at the end of the day, you don't feel well, you don't enjoy your day, you don't enjoy your day to day, come to think of it, before you know it, your 10 years is already up, and when you will be asked, did you enjoy your 10 years? Maybe some would say yes, but maybe a lot would say no, if especially if they're so bent on being successful, on they're being bent on being in working so hard because they need to be this and that for this and for them, or something like that. Okay, I'm out of my topic already, but that's it. So this is one business model canvas that you could see online. Another one is this. Anyway, I'm be showing this to you because you'll be preparing one also for your groups. This one is another one. I like this better because it has arrows, and the flow of ideas is starting from the partners, central to the values. That is why I say it's centered, and ends with the customer. The bottom line, of course, will be these two, the very important cost and revenue. Another one, a modification of this is this one. So your key partners, of course, will let you think of the key activities. With your key partners, you have to think of these key activities that you will do so that you keep on doing, or you keep on improving, or you keep on ensuring that the values that you are proposing will continue to be evolving, because your customers are evolving. This is another one. Okay, now let's go to each one. So let's go to the key partners, although in part I have already discussed it in here. Let's go to this because anyway, it's not yet time. So let's go to the key partners. So they may come in any of these 4 forms. So they could be your strategic alliances between non-competitors. So these are your alliances, your help. Now, this provides an idea where two companies will develop harmonious relationships. So that is why I ask you if you have any idea of companies that exist, that are existing individually but are helping each other at the same time. So they are forming what we call strategic alliances. Then the first time that I met this word, co-opetition, I thought there was a mistype, but it's really co-opetition. So this combines actually competition and cooperation. So co-opetition. So this is competition and cooperation merged into one idea. So co-opetition. Now, it seems that a competitor can also be a partner in business as long as they have cooperation on the ideas and knowledge and how to improve products and services. So a partner can also be your competition, at the same time coexisting together. Now, we can also have joint ventures to develop new businesses. So a company may join another company to create a different entity, which may be more profitable for both of them than if they were to operate separately. So kadamo na sa mga joint ventures, yeah. The banks are #1 example. So one bank is merging with another. Okay, like Security Bank being acquired by BDO, China Bank being already acquired by BDO. They are all already owned by BDO. Major owner is BDO, but the original incorporators are still there. But gamay na lang na ila share. But China Bank is still existing as China Bank. We don't name it as BDO, but it's already owned by BDO. Same thing with Security Bank. Okay? So just examples of joint venture to ensure that the particular company stays, so hindi siya madula. So hindi nadula ang China Bank, hindi nadula ang Security Bank because they are small players actually if we compare to the big banks. So there is this joint ventures, or shall I say more of an acquisition of the smaller companies by the bigger ones. Mang Inasal is already owned by majority owned by Jollibee, something like that. Chowking is also Jollibee, but they still remain as Chowking, they still remain as Mang Inasal, but they are actually joint ventures. Now, buyer-supplier relationships, you know this. So, I buy from you, or should I say, you supply for me, something like that. So, in every business, the buyer and supplier should incorporate the characteristics of trust, quality and commitment between them to maintain an amicable relationship to achieve success. So these are the key partners, the most common key partners that a particular business may have. Okay? Now we go to the activities. So remember that this activity should ensure that the value that was proposed would continue, or the value is preserved. So based on the value proposition, what kind of activities are key to your business? So these are the activities that we are looking into. What are the things that need to be done? That way, the values that is proposed will continue to be offered. What kind of activities are key to your distribution channels? So you ensure that your target customer receives what they ought to receive. So what are these activities that are key to your distribution channels? Another thing is what kinds of activities are important if you want to maintain your customer relationship. So that is why from the activities, it's point out to the values, and the last part is customer. Because at the end of everything, you have to satisfy your customer. So your customers. So what kind of activities are important if we want to maintain our customer relationship? What kind of activities are fundamentals to our revenue streams? Revenue, siyempre, kailangan mag-earn ang business. So kung wala mo na siya gina-consider, you consider only, let's say, for example, the 3 activities here on top, your business will not exist still. So you have to think of the activities that are fundamental. That way, there will be money coming in steadily. Profit will be earned by the business. Okay, so activities that are central to the achievement of the values that are proposed, and activities that will ensure that the products or services reach your customers through the appropriate selected channels, and activities that, of course, the last but not the, but I think most important is it will have to keep the money coming in so that there will be revenues coming in for the companies. So these are the activities that were presented to you in the BMC a while ago. Then we go to the resources. So our resources damo, although ginhampal naman to, it could be material, it could be talent, it could be money. So when we go to physical resources, these are the tangible resources that most companies or organization uses to create its value proposition. Probably it includes the equipment, inventory, the building, the manufacturing plants, and distribution networks that enable the business to function. The tangible, so something that could be seen. Intellectual resources, something to do, of course, so how smart, how geniuses work in the companies that need them. So these are the non-physical, intangible resources like brand. The brand itself speaks for itself, like BMW speaks for himself. You don't need to market BMW. The the people who are the target market of BMW would buy it even if it's not advertised to them. So the brand, so speaking, iPhone is a brand in itself. even if it's the most expensive, but it's still the most sought after model of the phone for those who are earning. Even those that are not earning, they want an iPhone because the brand is speaking for itself. The patent behind that particular model of car, the patent behind that particular model of the cell phone, the patent behind that particular electronic car or solar car or whatever it is, that's your intangible resource. The intellectual property, the IP, the copyrights, and even the partnerships. So their partnerships are also considered as your resources as well. So customer list, customer knowledge, and even your own people, the people in the company represent a form of intellectual resource. So I gave an example of Google. Intellectual resources take a great deal of time and expenditure to develop. But once developed, they can offer unique advantages to the company. Okay, so this particular intellectual property rights actually will be discussed in the next module. It's chapter 4 in the book that I'm using. Now, I'll get to give an example of a company class that only hires. I don't know then, but then when we can still go on an industrial tour because this is a CHE class. I know that this company only hires those that are in the upper 5 or 10% of their class, if not the board top notchers. The reason why ang alabana sa aton mga placers kag top notchers ato sa Petro, kay ila ginahire sila halin sa mga cream of the crop sa mga schools, and most importantly those that are landing up in the placer as placers in the board exam. So you can ask friends or previous graduates ang kalabanan kinahire sa Petro na muna. They consider their people as their number one, probably one of their, shall I say, key resources, their people, the talents. Okay? Now we go to the next. The third one is the human resource. So human resources are specifically the people behind the organization. The employees are the most important assets of an organization. So great ideas are coming from these people, and companies require a great deal of creativity and extensive knowledge from them. The reason why the company exists or any institution exists is because of the people. Even there's this saying that the most important resource of any company or business is their people. I think the Japanese people capitalize on this because of their loyalty. I think some of you have heard of this already. The Japanese even, especially if their company is losing or if there's a report that not enough revenue is coming in for the company, the Japanese workers would even it would even be okay with them if they will offer even to their employer that they will not get this salary this much. It would be even okay for them for their salaries to be cut into half or just 70. They will just be receiving only 75 because they have this much loyalty in the company. You can read on that regarding the loyalty of Japanese people to their employers. That is why there is this saying that people is the number one resource that any company or business may have, especially the Japanese. Okay, we go to financial resources. This is a given. So the financial resource includes your cash, the lines of credit, and the availability to have stock options plan for employees, for those that have offerings. Okay, all businesses have key resources in finance, but some will have stronger financial resources than others, such as the banks that are based entirely on the availability of this key resource. Kung wala sang may nag-deposit sa bangko, wala man na nag-exist ang bank because actually they are working on the money that is deposited on them and they're earning using the money of the people that is deposited on them. So it's also a risk on their part on how to manage that resource, the money that is entrusted to them. So similarly, China Life Insurance, as an example, sells insurance to its wide customer base. However, if China Life Insurance does not have sufficient capital to cover insurance claims, it will not be able to survive in the market. So this is not just like China Life Insurance. This works for all insurance companies, and it's also a risk. They earn big if nothing happens to that insured property, to that insured car, to that insured life. They earn a lot because you pay a lot for that, especially if the thing to be insured also costs much. But once, let's say for example, Prudential Life is one classic example. And that is why a lot of those that have automobiles will have it insured in Prudential Life. It's because ang Prudential Life, may history na sila yung nag-insure sa ila sa isa ka sports car. Ang isang, I think, planter siguro or businessman there is a Bacolod. That sports car probably was just used by that person less than a year. Something happened to the car. So mag-amo na siya kay comprehensive and insurance kag wala pa kalapo 3 years ang salakyan. Most probably the company will pay around 90 if not 100% of the entire cost of the car. So they paid millions of money to that insured car. But that's something that insurance company have to consider, because speaking of insurance claim here, if they don't have enough cash, if they're not that fluid, if something happens and somebody claims or an insurer claims and they will not be able to pay, that's not good advertisement for the insurance company as well. Okay, so this is the resources, the 4 resources: the physical, the intellectual, the human resource, and the financial resources. I will continue with the rest of the discussion class next week because it's already 2:29 and I need as well to check your attendance. So I will stop sharing for now.